savez ce qui est passionnant dans la cybersécurité? C'est qu'elle est faite d'hommes et de femmes passionnés qui rêvent et qui font des rêves un peu fous. Parmi vous, il y a une société, WIZ, qui en moins de 4 ans a révolutionné la sécurisation du cloud, en gardant en tête 2 piliers, visibilité, maîtrise. Nous, on les a suivis et on les a encouragés. À vrai dire, j'ai beaucoup insisté pour faire venir un intervenant d'exception. Il s'agit d'Anthony Belfiore, à qui je passe la scène. Anthony, please join us. Et on l'applaudit.
All right. We got a crowd here. Wow, there's some lights. They're pretty bright. Well, thank you for having me, folks. This is an amazing opportunity. I'm very honored to be here at the Les Assises 25 cyber conference with the constituents here made up of CISOs and a bunch of young vendors, much like WIZ, the company I work for. It's my about 10th time in the lovely country of Monaco. Oh, lovely. Of Monaco and here in Monte Carlo. So I'm very blessed to be here, and thank you. So when I got asked to do this presentation, I was kind of curious of why they would want me, right? I'm basically a recovering Fortune 100 CISO. So I used to run cybersecurity for very large corporations, much like many of you in the room. And then I made a pivot in my mid-40s to go into be a little more entrepreneurial and ended up at a startup known as WIZ. Now, many of you have heard of WIZ. WIZ is a pretty, I'm hoping, if you haven't, actually, maybe I shouldn't assume that, but WIZ is one of the fastest growing cybersecurity companies ever. And we started about 5 3/4 years ago. The corporation was founded in the US by four founders. I'm going to cover them in a minute. But basically what WIZ is a technology that helps you secure your cloud security, right? And what's really unique about WIZ is that the growth that we experienced at WIZ was something of an anomaly. We had never seen anything like it in software. WIZ was a company that, again, founded by an exceptional team, but came up with a technology at a point in time that for the market, the wave that was happening with cloud, we really caught the wave at the right time, at the peak, and were able to ride it. Okay, and so what I'm going to cover over the next 24 minutes is I'm going to cover with everyone kind of the characteristics of our journey, what made WIZ, what differentiated WIZ as a startup, what made us unique, what's helped us get to where we have gotten to, which has now led to, and we'll cover it later, an exit with Google, but also just talk to you about it from a perspective of both the CISO perspective, as many of you are CISOs and engineers and operators of cybersecurity for corporations, but also from the other side of it, if you're here from a startup, if you're here from a partner, if you're here from a company that's building great tech, what we did to make sure that WIZ had the exit it did and the outcomes we're having at this current point in time. So as you can see up on this big slide here, next to my big head on this screen, you can see that WIZ was a pretty rapid growth company. We basically started this company less than 6 years ago, and in that time, we've actually been able to become the dominant market player in a space known as CNAPP, okay? Gartner every year comes out with new acronyms, right? And, CNAPP was actually preceded by things like CSPM, CWPP, ABCD, there's an acronym for everything in security today, yes? And so CNAPP was this rapidly evolving space really focused on securing cloud, multi-cloud environments holistically from both an enumeration and vulnerability identification perspective to an actual policy enforcement and security, securing and protection perspective. It's really evolved over the last 6 years, okay? And in order to do that, WIZ went after the market to achieve that top right quadrant result we have up there. We went after the market by taking a little bit of a different approach than most startups take. We said, look, we see that this legacy market is full of incumbents, the great ones like Palo Alto and at the time Lacework was a behemoth, and Orca, and Microsoft Defender for multi-cloud, and all these players were playing in the cloud security space. We were coming to the game late. We were the new kids on the block, and we realized that, hey, you know, what is it going to take for us to really make an impact in this market? It looks pretty mature, right? You guys have tool fatigue. Many of you get hit with vendors every week, a new tool. Everyone is sick of hearing about the new non-human identity platform, or the new SIM, or the new deception technology, or whatever the hell the buzzword is this year at the conferences, right? But for us, when we looked at the market, we said to ourselves, how are we going to differentiate ourselves amongst these juggernauts with the Palo Altos being in this space, and now the CrowdStrike's in this space, and the Laceworks. Lacework was an established company at that time, really a behemoth in the market. And so what we realized was a couple things. And I'm sorry, I'm showing you my gratuitous client list of what we've achieved in the last 6 years, but I'm going to jump off this and come back to this in a bit. I'm going to come back to this. What we realized was our mission was, if we could do it, why don't we just become the kings of cloud? Why don't we start to focus on becoming the kings and queens, so to speak, of telemetry, insights, contextualization, risk quantification, and qualification in the cloud? If we could get that focus, that surgical, and build an ostensible platform that scales, wow, what could we do with that? Because, you know, guys, when they invest in big companies, you saw we took about 1.9 billion from investors, right? When they invest, what do they look at? They look at the TAM, the total addressable market. They look at the timing, is it the right time? They look at the tech. We're going to cover that later. I'll show you how we kind of approached it. And then the most important part, the team, okay? What differentiates customers? What were we really confident in that was going to help us get to achieve that mission statement we said about kind of securing everything in cloud, right? Well, we knew we had a good team. If you look up on this slide, there's 4 gentlemen who are our founders. One of them's supposed to be here right now, but he just had a child, Yanan Kostica. He's actually a French citizen, and this was supposed to be his slot. He's much better looking and skinnier, but you get stuck with me. But Yanan just had his first child, so he's not here tonight. But generally speaking, what you had with this team was a team who had actually already had an exit. They had come out of their military service. They had come in to build a company called Adalom, which was one of the first CASBs on the market back in the day. Do you guys remember the CASB space? I see some battle scars in here, some grimaces on the faces. Now, that product actually was acquired by Microsoft after about, I want to say, maybe like a year and a half. They sold it, they had their first exit, and that product became Sentinel. You guys know what Microsoft Sentinel is? That's what that product is, their SIM, that platform. That evolved into that. Well, these 4 gentlemen built it. Asaf Rappaport, the CEO, or the head of our company, kind of the visionary strategy guys. Roy Resnick, the head of R&D and the development guru that just helped us build great code very quickly. Ami Ludwak, kind of our mad scientist, CTO, who's always thinking ahead and kind of in every place and no place at the same time. He's a wild thinker and innovator. And then Yanan Kostica, again, the Frenchman who is not here, who is the head of our product and kind of the heart and fire and passion of WIZ. And so we have this amazing team. When you have an amazing team and you have a history and track record of actually exiting, you get really good investors, right? Sequoia and Index being 2 of the best on the planet, right? You start getting investors like this, it makes things a lot easier to raise capital, and it's also a lot easier to gain what we would call street cred with the market, right? A CISO who sees a company like WIZ who has a proven set of actors owners and startup leaders, founders, they're going to believe them, they're going to take a meeting with them, and obviously if they see that they're serious backing, they take things more seriously. So we had the team, we had the vision, and then we said to ourselves, well, what's out there like in cloud, like what's happening, what's like the threat landscape like, what's the spend landscape, what's the regulatory landscape? And one of the things we started to realize was cloud was a hell of a lot more complicated than building on-prem technologies and systems, right? And in terms of the way we approached our solution to secure it, we realized really quickly that you can't just secure the cloud, right? If we just secure cloud, we're kidding ourselves. You're basically treating symptoms of a disease without curing the disease, right? You're not actually focusing on the core issue. So the point is, if we can't get to the code, there's no way I can ever secure the runtime, right? Unfortunately, it's a very symbiotic and linked interaction that all layers of it have to benefit together, all right? And so we realized to attack cloud effectively, we had to start with the cloud, which is where we started, but then we aggressively shifted left into the pipeline and code, and now we're going back up the stack to cover the app, right? App tier visibility. And why is this important, right? Why is this important? Because on top of cloud changing everything, here comes AI. So if we didn't have enough problems getting our on-prem crappy applications into the cloud, now we're gonna make things more difficult by adding a new technology, a new attack surface to the mix, and add AI into this. And as you can tell, you guys are I'm sure you're getting bombarded, whether you get questions from your boards, questions from your teams, your business leaders. How can we leverage AI? How can we get this market differentiating technology into our business operation now? And then many of you sit in the role of CISO or head of risk or head of vulnerability management, and you're sitting there saying, how do we adopt this technology that's unproven? We don't really understand it, but we can't not do it because you end up hedging one operational risk versus another. Meaning you're gonna miss the opportunity in the market and maybe put your company behind in the race, right? If we don't adopt this. So it's very challenging for a head of security to deal with these issues. So you have what we saw at the time, the cloud transformation and evolution and people moving from on-prem to cloud. And now, 3 years into our WIZ journey, we get hit with the AI bug because our customers start asking, what are we doing about it? But here was the challenge. All these new technologies are coming out, but everyone is still trying to apply legacy approaches, paradigms, structures, control frameworks that worked on-prem, but they don't work in cloud, do they? Right? Many of you are facing this, and they don't work with AI, right? And so what we realized was, again, back to what I was saying before, if you keep going on this path and just keep buying tools and innovating in your companies, leveraging new technologies, but you don't have a holistic approach to secure your cloud and AI and all the data and workloads and everything operating within it, you're gonna be in a pretty bad spot. Right? Because today, the game has changed also in terms of how attackers hit your company, right? Historically, they'd sit there and they'd port scan you with a Nessus, they'd do some general enumeration, they'd try to find a vulnerability, try to find an old FTP or telnet was open or some Unicode exploit on some legacy Windows. I'm dating myself here because I'm probably an old man in the room here, but things we used to deal with, right? But the game has changed. The attack surface has changed. And the only way to approach cloud security and AI security effectively is to have the holistic approach, code, pipeline, cloud, and runtime. If you can't have visibility and transparency of how those different silos interact, you can't manage risk. Full stop. So this was kind of the ethos of what we came up with. This is what we thought of 5 years ago and have evolved into, right? And that's largely what has driven WIZ's growth. Now, when I talk about growth, WIZ's growth, what does that mean? WIZ, again, under 6 years old. At the time of the Google acquisition in this past March, WIZ had achieved in about 5 years around 800 million of ARR. That's like an unprecedented number. It's very difficult. But why did we achieve that? We achieved it because we provided a technology approach. Oh, sorry, I skipped that one. A horizontal security from code to cloud platform, like I was talking about, right? Sorry, the slides aren't mine. I got them from marketing. My bad. But we're going to keep rolling through. Code, pipeline, cloud, runtime, right? So what we realized was by building this ostensible platform that links all the silos, we can give you contextualized insights and time frames and time to value that no one ever had, okay? So for instance, I can show you that a workload is internet routable, and that it's exposed. There's an active CVE, it's internet routable, and I can also show you the lateral movement capability, the access overlays, what other data stores you could get access to. Because of the nature of cloud, it allowed WIZ to do things that we used to have to do on premises with effectively dental floss and toothpicks. You know, the Taniums, the Qualices, the Archers, the GRCs, and you with a team of 15 people managing spreadsheets, trying to figure out link analysis and how to manage risk. What we could do with WIZ, because of the nature of cloud, because we could, in an agentless way, right? We could get into your cloud, you could give me the read-only account I needed, the way we built our technology. We could get the read-only account we needed, download the APIs from that relevant cloud, and in about 15 minutes or less, give you fully modeled threat scenarios on a graph showing you risk. Well, when it first started out with base level CSPM, we were showing you really cool stuff like containers that are internet routable with PII and a super user account that was exposed, even secrets that were exposed, toxic combinations, really powerful. But when things started getting really serious in terms of our evolution and our growth, our biggest customers came back to say to us like, hey, back to rule number one, you're not fixing my problem, you're just treating symptoms. You can't help me unless you can fix the code. Okay? So we evolved WIZ. And now today in WIZ, you can actually take a vulnerability and link it back to the exact line of code in your Git to tell you what to fix, how to fix it, and what order you should fix it in. This is kind of the secret sauce of what we came up with that disrupted things. So in terms of WIZ's evolution and our ability to bring on the biggest customers of the world, what allowed us to get in, what allowed us to get sticky and sell a ton of software was our ability to solve these problems completely in the most timely manner imaginable, right? To get that type of turnaround. Listen, I used to be on the board of directors of Tanium, amazing product, amazing, great technology at the time. But there was no way in 15 minutes or less I was getting the level of value out of Tanium I'm getting out of WIZ. I had to deploy an agent, I had to pull back data, we had to normalize it, we had to do link analysis and correlation. Very difficult. WIZ built this natively in cloud for cloud, okay? Right? So now we have a technology that allows you to pull in data. We have a technology that allows you to ingest large amounts of data from multi-cloud environments, normalize it, assess it, correlate it, do link analysis on it, prioritize your outcomes and threat scenarios, and tell you exactly what to fix in what order, in what priority, based on how you weight it, okay? But what really was the next evolution for WIZ? That was like 3 years in, we got to this point. Now, 4 and 5, how do we really blow the market open and really evolve what we do in our platform? Well, we decided, hey, because from code to runtime is a broad spectrum, there's multiple constituencies that need to come to bear on the equation to fix it, right? There's multiple people in the village. You have developers, you have SecOps teams, you have vulnerability management teams, you have second line and GRC and risk teams, right? What we realized was WIZ at its core is effectively a data lake with layers of telemetry that provide you very contextualized insights in a graph. That's really what it is, very simplistically, in its rudimentary components. But what we also realized was we're doing ourselves a disservice if we're only building WIZ for security and lenses or views into that data for security. So what WIZ evolved into was building basically a lens for each persona on this table. So from the developer to the DevOps guy to the vulnerability manager or SecOps responder, there's a persona in WIZ that you can do this. And why was this powerful? Why was this effective? Because you actually now had a chance at curing the cancer at its core. If developers are involved and can fix the code at the code level, it was a very powerful outcome. And you don't have to take my word for it. I mean, you guys see the results. I mean, candidly, we became the market leader. So what we realized was democratizing security across the ecosystem of users within a corporation was the most critical thing to do to solve security issues and cyber resilience issues across companies. So today, my friends, if you're like I used to be, a CISO who was getting thousands of vulnerabilities a week in these reports, chasing developers and tech leaders, please patch the boxes, please take the fish, please take it from me, eat, do this. Now we're in a position with the way the platform has evolved and the lenses we've applied to allow developers themselves to actually take accountability for their pipe, their code, and the security of it by running WIZ through the WIZ lens that they get access to. And guess what? We have, I think, about 50% of our customers. Let me get up to it. Hold on, find it. Let me find the slide. Did I miss it? I missed it. But about 50% of our customers today, as of July of last year, are developers, not security practitioners, right? So developers, not security practitioners, which is a huge milestone for security technology, as you can imagine, right? So we started really treating cancer, and I'm happy to say about 50% of our enterprise customers are zero critical vulnerability environments now because of that pivot and change. Super powerful, right? Cloud operating model, right? We got to break the silos down, people. The legacy silos we used to have on-prem have to go. If we don't do this, we don't have a snowball's chance in hell about managing risk across cloud, let alone AI. Whether it's cloud, whether it's AI, whether it's data today across these ecosystems, we need to break the model. We need to break these silos down. And we need to basically start engineering for the defense in depth and all these buzzwords you're hearing. But again, it starts with the people, the human capital, the organizational construct within your company. If you don't have these relationships, if you don't have the ability to get tech, development, security working together collaboratively, collegially, it's going to be a challenge to manage the risk in your corporation in today's day and age, right? We're dealing with billions of lines of code, new technologies every day. Everything's disrupting. It's getting challenging. So we disrupted the operating model, the security operating model for cloud with WIZ, right? The next generation of companies coming up are hopefully going to do the same thing for things like AI, for quantum, for data. No one's really solved data yet, right? We still got issues there with data classification, confidentiality, compliance, GDPR. Everyone loves GDPR here, right? Woo! Yeah, right? Brutal, right? Regulatory tax, right? I have a finite amount of dollar cycles in Windows, and I need to secure I need to fix the hole in the hull of the ship, and instead I'm spending money rearranging deck chairs doing compliance, right? Because we're forced to do it. We have to get a better view on these things. All right. And I think the other thing that's really important as you start to understand new technologies, this isn't just for WIZ, right? This is for all technology you use. The key things with AI, with cloud, with data, the first issue is as you move to SaaS and you move to cloud, what's the first issue you have? You have a telemetry gap. You have a gap in your understanding of the technology, of the data, of what's actually happening to your data in these clouds. They don't always have the best visibility, always the best monitoring, always the best security. So the first issue is whatever technology you buy to solve a problem, it needs to help you to gain visibility. Then it needs to start helping you reduce risk. That visibility should allow you to quantify and qualify exposure, and you should be able to reduce risk, okay? Whether this is a SAST, a DAST, a DSPM, again, the Gartner alphabet soup, whatever, you need to you leverage these technologies in these ways, right? Then the key thing for WIZ and the pivot for us, what really helped us kind of get to the next level was our ability to democratize security and then get back to the code, develop securely, and transform the cloud SecOps on the backside of it to ensure that you're actually managing risk. But again, these are kind of holistic messages for any process you're going to run in security these days. It's a pretty standard paradigm or architecture. Looking to the future. This is our future. WIZ, we started with CSPM, we started with cloud, we started up in the clouds, we moved down to the code, we are now moving to app, and now we've actually started to go back on-prem. I didn't want to go on-prem. I wanted to stay in the cloud flying and building a beautiful company with good revenue and good margins. I didn't want to get into the battleground of what's happening on the ground. But unfortunately, when you have Fortune 100 customers, the average customer in the WIZ portfolio of the Fortune 100 portfolio is only about 15% deployed to cloud the way they need to be. That means 85% of their spend is still in the private clouds they've built over the last 10 years. So they have a problem. It's not just easy to drag and drop on-prem apps into the cloud. So WIZ provides companies an ability, a seatbelt, if you will, or a parachute, to move those apps to the cloud faster with a level of risk mitigation and a level of contextualization and insight so you can manage your risk, right? Very powerful, right? So as we continue to evolve and companies continue to leverage AI and cloud, WIZ is going to be there to be that seatbelt. And I just talked about the AI component of it. I was talking about cloud, but they gave me 2 slides on it. Look, the punchline for the startups out there: tech, team, timing, TAM. Out of those 4 things, the team is the most important. For the CISOs out there, same thing. The team is most important. Who are you betting on? Who are you meeting with? Be discerning. Don't just believe the tech. Look at the guys you're getting into bed with when you go to work and go to market with these guys. Understand what they're bringing to the table. That floor today that we just walked is full of amazing, innovative startups, exceptional young companies up and coming. But you got to discern, because there's a lot of capital out there in the market, and not all these things are going to take off. It's just the reality of the world, right? So make sure that you believe in the teams that you're backing, believe in the teams you're bringing into your corporations, and understand that, hey, is it a team I believe in? Is it a TAM? Is it the timing right for what I need? And is it a tech that I'm going to need in my portfolio? Because you all have a lot of tech, all right? And then the last thing I'll leave you with on this is that, Google did acquire WIZ. For those of you who don't know, Google bought us in March for $32 billion. So a 5.5-year life cycle for a $32 billion exit. It's the largest private software deal since, I think, Facebook bought WhatsApp for, $21 billion or something of that nature, right? So it's an amazing outcome. But get ready. This is not going to be the first. It's not going to be the last. With the AI revolution and evolution, companies are coming up the curve that are going to blow your socks off and even kill our numbers. So we've had an exceptional outcome. It's been a great ride. I hope this was informational and everyone's awake, or I hopefully didn't put anyone to sleep. But thank you for listening to me. Thank you for having time with me here. And enjoy the rest of the conference. Enjoy the parties tonight. Take care. We good?
Thank you, Anthony.
No
Thank
problem,
you.
no problem.
Eva. Bon, comment passer du coq à l'âne? Ça n'a rien à voir avec ce que j'ai à vous dire. Je voudrais vous dire que la journée était riche. Beaucoup parmi vous sont arrivés ce matin. On va se reposer un peu, me répartir avec plein d'énergie. Pourquoi? Parce que ce soir, je vous attends ici au Grimaldi Forum, dans les nouveaux espaces que le Grimaldi Forum nous a proposés. Et je vous amène où? Je vous amène dans mon pays, parce que ça sera une soirée benvenuti in Italia. Et je ne vous en dis pas plus. Donc rendez-vous tout à l'heure au Grimaldi Forum.